Welcome to the King's Report for Saturday, March 19th, 2022. Today is the 13th year of Chungi, second month and 17th day in the heavenly calendar. And my name is Richard Panzer, standing in for Second King of Chanoguk. And I'd like to give a shout out to Second King and Queen down in Chunpyeon and all brothers and sisters around the world. We have a lot of territory to cover today. And let's get started with our scripture reading. So here we go. All right. So first of all, 2 Chronicles chapter 1, verses 7 through 12. In that night, God appeared to Solomon and said to him, "Ask what I shall give you." And Solomon said to God, "You've shown great and steadfast love to David, my father, and have made me king in his place. O Lord God, let your word to David, my father, be now fulfilled. For you have made me king over a people as numerous as the dust of the earth. Give me now wisdom and knowledge to go out and come in before this people, for who can govern this people of yours, which is so great?" God answered Solomon, "Because this was in your heart, and you have not asked for possessions, wealth, honor, or the life of those who hate you, and not even asked for long life, but have asked for wisdom and knowledge for yourself, that you may govern my people over whom I have made you king, wisdom and knowledge are granted to you. I will also give you riches, possessions, and honor, such as none of the kings had who were before you, and none after you shall have the like." So, I mean, this message it's really in alignment actually with Jesus' teaching, right? Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and then all the other things that you need will be added onto you, right? Seek God's wisdom, seek God's heart and will, and the other things that we need will naturally come to us. And that, of course, is what True Father taught and lived his whole life. Okay, and then finally, I'd like to read from True Father's words in the Way of Tradition, book 3. "There's not much time. Even when people attack you, there is no time to spend arguing with them because you are too busy. No matter what persecution comes, there's too much to do to spend time defending yourself. There's no time to fool around with these people." So the Father did not worry about criticism or even persecution. I remember when True Father had to go to Danbury prison, and he gathered many brothers and sisters at East Garden, and of course we were devastated. I mean, it was unbelievable that the American government would send True Father to prison for the alleged crime of failing to pay $7,000 in taxes, which, you know, Father, of course, was more than willing to do, but they wanted to. Their intent actually was to keep Father out of the United States, and they thought that, faced with a trial and the potential to be sent to prison, that Father would just stay in Korea and not come back to America. But actually, Father came here to save America, and he was willing to go to prison. Father already risked his life and gone to much worse prisons, I believe 5 times before, and he was willing to do that. The ironic thing actually is that when Father went to prison, many top Christian leaders came to visit him in Danbury. And so actually, there was a great silver lining that the religious freedom movement in America, and that was followed by the causa, a lot of causa education took place, and the Father does not worry about persecution, and actually neither should we. And because God works through those kinds of events, as Father taught us and Father showed us. Okay, thank you, True Father. Thank you for that. All right, let me stop sharing. So I've got good news and bad news. Okay. I think you're going to be really bummed out, but my goal is to drive you into despair and then show you that there is hope. Okay, so let's get started here. So I want to go back to our friend, Dr. Yuval Noah Harari, and his plans for the human race and the transhumanist race.
To now. Professor Harari, Professor Yuval, the floor is yours.
From a World Economic Forum meeting in 2018.
So, hello everybody. Let me just have 1 minute to get friends with this computer and make sure everything is okay. And can I have a bit more light on the audience so I can see the faces and not just speak to a darkness? Thank you. So I want to talk to you today about the future of our species and really the future of life. We are probably one of the last generations of Homo sapiens. Within a century or two, Earth will be dominated by entities that are more different from us than we are different from Neanderthals or from chimpanzees. Because in the coming generations, we will learn how to engineer bodies and brains and minds. These will be the main products of the economy, of the 21st century economy, not textiles and vehicles and weapons, but bodies and brains and minds. Now, how exactly will the future masters of the planet look like? This will be decided by the people who own the data. Those who control the data control the future, not just of humanity, but the future of life itself. Because today, data is the most important asset in the world. In ancient times, land was the most important asset. And if too much land became concentrated in too few hands, humanity split into aristocrats and commoners. Then in the modern age, in the last 2 centuries, machinery replaced land as the most important asset. And if too many of the machines became concentrated in too few hands, humanity split into classes, into capitalists and proletariats. Now data is replacing machinery as the most important asset. And if too much of the data becomes concentrated in too few hands, humanity will split not into classes, it will split into species, into different species. Now, why is data so important? It's important because we've reached the point when we can hack not just computers, we can hack human beings and other organisms. There is a lot of talk these days about hacking computers and email accounts and bank accounts and mobile phones, but actually we are gaining the ability to hack human beings. Now, what do you need in order to hack a human being? You need 2 things. You need a lot of computing power and you need a lot of data, especially biometric data. Not data about what I buy or where I go, but data about what is happening inside my body and inside my brain. Until today, nobody had the necessary computing power and the necessary data to hack humanity. Even if the Soviet KGB or the Spanish Inquisition followed you around everywhere, 24 hours a day, watching everything you do, listening to everything you say, still, they didn't have the computing power and the biological knowledge necessary to make sense of what was happening inside your body and brain, and to understand how you feel and what you think and what you want. But this is now changing because of two.
Okay, I think I just want to share that little bit from Dr. Harari. He was talking about this 4 years ago, and looks like they have a plan. They have a plan for us. Okay. Okay. All right. I'd like to now shift to the video that we did watch a little bit of this before, but I want to continue. This is the Power Brokers You Never Elected documentary.
5 years of age and older, please get them vaccinated. We need to protect the children.
50 million planned doses scrapped after triggering false positive results for HIV.
As in science, things don't always go right. It's certainly a tough day for the team.
The UQ vaccine applied a molecular clamp closing the coronavirus spikes using an HIV protein, which falsely triggered infection markers. Vaccine expert Professor Nikolai Petrovsky says he raised the alarm early.
Our feeling was it was too experimental a technology to be rolled out.
It isn't only the definitions of pandemic and anti-vaxxer which have changed. Even vaccine has been redefined.
You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
Our data from the CDC today suggests, that vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick, and that it's not just in the clinical trials, but it's also in real world data.
Now we know that the vaccines work well enough that the virus stops with every vaccinated person. A vaccinated person gets exposed to the virus does not infect them. The virus cannot then use that person to go anywhere else.
Vaccines prevent getting infected, prevent getting sick, prevent your hospitalization.
This was the promise, which they failed to deliver, as the vaccinated could still spread the infection. Pfizer's CEO announced this January that they will make a new attempt, a vaccine 1.1, which will be released in March.
And we know that the two doses of the vaccine offer very limited protection, if any. Now, we are working on a new version of our vaccine, the 1.1, let me put it that way, that will cover Omicron as well. And of course, we are waiting to have the final results. The vaccine will be ready in March.
The CDC, the Public Health Agency of the United States, changed their definition of vaccine at the end of 2021. From being something that gave immunity to disease to instead being something that stimulates an immune system response to a disease. The WHO, in connection to COVID-19, changed their definition of herd immunity by removing the statement that herd immunity can be achieved through natural immunity after being exposed to the disease, to instead only being a consequence of vaccination.
Herd immunity is achieved by protecting people from a virus, not by exposing them to it.
These definitions have changed in order to manipulate reality. The largest funder of the WHO is Bill Gates. Gates is also closely connected to the World Economic Forum. With one hand, Gates receives tax breaks for the money he transfers to his Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which in turn can forward the tax-exempt money to the WHO. With the other hand, Gates invests in the pharmaceutical industry and vaccines.
You've invested $10 billion in vaccinations over the last 2 decades,
and you figured out the return on investment for that. It kind of stunned me. Can you walk us through the math?
But we feel there's been over a 20-to-1 return. So if you just look at the economic benefits, that's a pretty strong number compared to anything else.
I think the numbers that you ran through were if you had put that money into an S&P 500 and reinvested the dividends, you'd come up with something like $17 billion, but you think it's $200 billion.
Here, yeah. Helping young children live, get the right nutrition, contribute to their countries, that has a payback that goes beyond any typical financial return.
Right.
When the WHO declares a pandemic and urges the world to get vaccinated, it's Gates' best investment ever, all disguised as philanthropy. The large global companies have become incomprehensibly richer during the pandemic years. All while the pandemic measures have smashed the economy for the average citizen in the worst hit countries.
During a crisis, a window of opportunity for policy changes is created. This is true regardless if the crisis is fabricated, as is the case with COVID-19. The whole crisis rests on the decision by WHO to declare a pandemic, but that wouldn't have happened before 2009. In that case, COVID-19 would have only been classified as a severe seasonal flu and would have been handled as such. But today, it is instead a pandemic, and it's being treated as if it was the most dangerous pandemic we have ever had. The reach of the measures have taken no historical counterpart. This window of opportunity for the people in power makes it possible for them to introduce policies which they never could have introduced otherwise. They are using this crisis as a pretext to implement new rules and protocols, so that when we leave the crisis and look for an exit, we will leave the old normal behind and instead enter a new normal, where the implemented changes live on.
It is our defining moment. Many things will change forever. A new world will emerge, the contours of which are for us to both imagine and to draw.
The vision Schwab and the World Economic Forum have of how the Great Reset will reshape our world is so far-reaching, they have to compare it to the impact of World War II.
World War II could even so be one of the most relevant mental anchors in the effort to assess what's coming next. World War II was the quintessential transformational war, triggering not only fundamental changes to the global order and the global economy, but also entailing radical shifts in societal attitudes and beliefs that eventually paved the way for radically new policies and social contract provisions. The magnitude of their transformative power is comparable. Both have the potential to be a transformative crisis of previously unimaginable proportions.
COVID-19 is used as a stepping stone to implement the largest and most extensive changes ever, having no historical counterpart, and the closest comparison is the global and social changes after World War II.
It's a tremendous responsibility which we have. So there's no other way. We have to live up to the expectations which we have created, and we will do so.
Okay. All right. Okay. They have a plan for they have a plan for us. All right. It involves redefining reality. Let me share. I want to share an article from the World Tribune, which is relevant to this discussion. It came out a few days ago. Here we go. All right. Next up, from the New World Health Order, International Pandemic Prevention Treaty. All right, here we go. Let's read this together. Oh wait, I guess I have to click on this. Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, this is from their Corporate Watch section of the World Tribune. There was one major fly in the ointment that vexed our ruling elites as they unleashed their otherwise wildly successful coronavirus pandemic coercive social regime on the world 2 years ago. Yes, the lockdowns, mask requirements, and vaccine mandates thrilled them to no end, but they were all conducted on the auspices of national governments. It likely served as a small sop to the peasants who were deemed not ready to submit to one overarching global health authority. But make no mistake, emboldened by their COVID triumph, the ruling establishment with plentiful corporate sponsors is already laying the groundwork to bring about its cherished goal of using public health hysteria to help usher in a new international order. Lawrence Gostin is the faculty director of the O'Neill Institute for National and Global Health Law at Georgetown Law and professor of medicine at Georgetown University. He also serves on high-level advisory committees of the World Health Organization. His Georgetown bio reads, Gostin is an enthusiastic advocate for the creation of an international treaty on pandemic prevention that would give WHO binding powers over sovereign nations when the next global health event strikes, as it surely soon will. In a forthright March 1st article for Scientific American magazine, Gostin lays out the argument for ceding one world health governing powers to WHO. As the UN's first specialized agency, the WHO has a constitutional mandate to direct and coordinate international health, which includes advancing work to eradicate epidemic disease. No state acting alone can prevent the worldwide spread of infectious diseases. Only robust international institutions can set global norms, promote cooperation, and share scientific information needed to respond to disease outbreaks. As a result, the WHO's role remains indispensable. With vast and growing global interdependency, intercontinental travel, and mass migration, the realities of globalization and climate change have fueled a modern era of new diseases. And lists the SARS-CoV-2, MERS, CoV, and SARS-CoV-2, of course, Ebola and Zika. Gostin knows who his friends are in this scheme. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus has been the world's conscience throughout the COVID crisis by urging global cooperation, but his pleas have largely been, anyway, he goes on to argue that we need to adopt a treaty, international treaty that would put the WHO in charge of pandemic response. I don't think that's a good idea. Okay. All right. I want to share now something from Dr. Zelenko, who's been at the forefront of treating COVID-19 infected patients, and let's watch what he has to say.
And so people are dying in Israel from immune deficiency, vaccine-induced immune deficiency. And Israel is the top country in the world that has people with 4 shots and 3 shots. And it's those people that have their immune systems destroyed. So they die from colds. They have AIDS, not HIV, but they have acquired immune deficiency syndrome. My point being is that the Israeli government, current Israeli government, in my opinion, is trying to finish what Hitler started. Now, the land itself is holy. It does exist in a different plane. What is the point of existence? Why did God create the world? Well, the prophet says that the knowledge of God will fill the world as the waters covered the seas. That our job is to reveal the divine presence in the world, to make this world a place where God wants to reveal himself to us. Because think about it. If you were God and you want to create humanity and you wanted to give them the best possible gift in the best possible way, what would that be? Money? A nice house? A Ferrari? Power? You see it in really good marriages. One spouse gives of his essence to the other spouse, makes himself vulnerable, and gives his being to the other spouse. So it's about a giving of the very essence. And could that be done in the best possible way? Well, there's two ways it could be done. It could be gifted, or a system could be set up where it's earned. And if I gave you a choice, I would give you a job to make $100 a day, or you can go and beg for money and make $200 a day. Which one would you choose? That's a real question. What would you choose?
The first one, because I don't really want to beg.
Right. So I agree, and I would do the same. Because there's a certain satisfaction that a person has when they earn something. There's a certain shame when they get something without earning it. And so, since God wants to give himself in the best possible way, he creates a system where he allows us to earn a relationship with him through the use of our consciousness and free choice. And so, what that does is the more God conscious, and this is very relevant to COVID, because really the enemies of humanity that have orchestrated this have started a war against God consciousness, or a war against God. Because all totalitarian regimes try to suppress religion in the houses of worship because very practical reasons. If I bow down to God and derive perseverance from him, then I won't bow down to them. So by removing God out of the way, you create a existential vacuum that allows for fear to set in. So there's this cult. The enemies of humanity are trying to create a cultish codependency on themselves. Whoever was orchestrating this, I call them sociopaths, want to enslave the soul of man. And they're using fear to do that. But fear exists only in the existential or psychological and emotional space where the consciousness of God is absent. Because the reality, I believe, is that God is making us anew every instant of time. And the fact that I am proves that he wants me to be. And if he wants me to be, then he's with me. And if he's with me, I'm not alone. And if I'm not alone, I'm not anxious. Now, if I want to take someone and make them into a slave, so I'll distract them from God, pump anxiety into them, and then offer some false solutions for that anxiety. And I will become drawn to them. So they created a weapon of mass destruction, created global fear, and then they made the problem, and then they created supposedly the solution to alleviate the problem, where the solution is the real, was the real point of everything. It's the final solution to the human condition.
Connected to that.
Okay, I thank you, Dr. Zelenko. This is beyond scary. Look, these people want to be God. and because they want to have total power over other people. I don't know why they want that, but that's what they want. And they, well, I guess maybe we do know. Maybe it's because they've rejected God. So and they don't want other people. They want to control people. That's the bottom line. And the COVID-19 was a crisis too good to waste, and it creates fear. And when people are controlled by their fear, then they're willing to give up their freedoms to be so-called safe. And not just Americans, but people all over the world accepted totalitarian solutions that they would not normally accept. And I think we all know that COVID-19 it's just the first chapter. It's just one of the chapters in their agenda. But as Dr. Zelenko mentioned, if we know that God is with us, then we do not need to be controlled by fear. And we can have that type of peace that True Father was talking about in the reading that I did, right? We don't need to be afraid. Look, you and I, we're all going to the spiritual world at some point, okay? We're all going there. So that's really not the issue. And we know that this physical life, this is not the only existence that we have. And thank God that God has revealed himself through Jesus and through True Father and through the revelations. The prophets have been, Moses and all the prophets, have been teaching us. And of course, with the divine principle teaching, we have a very kind of logical understanding of the physical body, spiritual body, physical world, and spiritual world. And so we really don't need to worry in that sense. Our main concern, of course, is that we leave behind a world that is not a tyranny to future generations. So that's our responsibility. And it is quite scary what their plans are, and their ability to take over major corporations, BlackRock, Vanguard, other asset management corporations, which control trillions of dollars in investments, and they're able to tell the Bank of America and other large financial institutions who to hire, who to fire. There's the the environmental, social justice, governance agenda, and they are using corporations to control. Even Exxon Corporation was instructed to limit its oil and gas exploration in the United States. Some of these sites were actually given to a Chinese-controlled gas and oil exploration company. Okay, they're very critical of the United States, but they have nothing bad to say about communist China. So, and of course, the second king and Tim Elder have been talking about this quite a bit as well. All right, I'd like to get back and show you a little bit more. Okay, a little bit more, and maybe even some good news. Okay, I want to show a left-wing spokesperson who's beginning to wake up from their deep, deep sleep. Here we go. And this is David Rubin talking about Trevor Noah, who has I guess like a talk show Let's watch.
Get to the end of the road, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Trevor Noah, who's the host of The Daily Show, and nobody really watches The Daily Show anymore, but these clips go seemingly viral. It's hard to tell if it's organic or not. But Trevor Noah is the host of The Daily Show, and he is, this is a guy that just, a couple weeks ago was calling for Joe Rogan to basically be fired because he said the N-word, and he's wrong on pretty much everything. But even Trevor Noah, lefty, wrong on everything, Trevor Noah sees the insanity of this Kyrie Irving situation.
Mayor Eric Adams has lifted the rule that you have to be vaccinated to attend indoor events. Okay, that's gone. But there is still a rule that you have to be vaccinated to go to your workplace. So if someone's job is at an indoor event, they can't go to work, but they can show up to work to watch their colleagues do their thing. Yeah, which is exactly what happened this weekend. Yeah, guys, I don't care like how COVID compliant you are. Like, this makes zero sense. Can we agree on that? Can we, what? So Kyrie can go inside, not wear a mask, even hug a teammate, but he cannot play. I don't get it. Why? Does the ball have a weak immune system? What's going on? I mean, it's crazy. Just think about it. Kyrie can't play, but he can sit in the stands, right? Like a fan. And then as a fan, what happens if he gets picked to take the half-court shot to win the cup? Can he do that? What are those?
All right. So putting aside that the guy's just not funny, he's got 20 writers doing that whole thing.
Okay, look, none of this is based on science, okay? We know that the COVID-19 vaccines, they provide some, apparently they provide some lowering of severe disease for older people, basically, or people with special conditions, but that effect wears off after a few months, and that's why you need to get a booster like every 6 months, it looks like. And it's about control. They want to, I mean, it is shocking that the Supreme Court allowed the government to force healthcare workers all over the United States to inject themselves with this really untested vaccine. I mean, and they've been hiding the data. I could show you articles. We now know that the CDC was hiding the data and collecting, even the data they collected wasn't that great because they don't really want people to know. They don't want people to know about the efficacy of these vaccines. And there is a bigger agenda, which we discussed I showed you in the videos. They want to control us. They want to control our bodies. As Dr. Harari explained, they want to hack into our DNA, monitor people, and if they can know what you're feeling by measuring your heart rate and essentially monitor our thoughts, actually. Anyway, all right, let me share a little bit of good news here too. Okay, I mean, some people are waking up, but long way to go. All right, I'd like to read to you, yeah, let me just share this. This is from the Brownstone Institute. Here we go. New Hampshire votes for pharmaceutical freedom. The New Hampshire House of Representatives has voted to make ivermectin available at any pharmacy that wants to distribute this drug, even without a prescription. It will likely pass the Senate and become law. It's a hugely positive breakthrough for medical and pharmaceutical freedom. It's only tragic that this was not the situation 2 years ago. The doctors the world over who have rallied behind this treatment believe that many lives, probably 800,000 lives, might have been saved. If one state in the Northeast had at least made this option available, outcomes might have been very different. The Epoch Times reports that similar bills are pending legislative approval in Oklahoma, Missouri, Indiana, Arizona, and Alaska. Magnificent. What's key here is the concept of human choice. The irony is very bitter. The vaccine mandates have been universal and people have lost careers for refusing or been rejected for participation in public life. People were forced to get shots of doubtful efficacy in most cases that many people did not want or because they did not see the need and feared their side effects. Meanwhile, a drug that they would have chosen to take was denied to them again by force, and physicians who believed they were saving lives had their licenses taken away for using their professional discretion. For a good part of last year, many people in the world could freely buy ivermectin, a generic drug that at least 8 quality studies have shown to be an effective treatment for COVID-19. It has long been part of the alternative treatment protocol for COVID since it was first tried in early 2020, but never recommended by the FDA, CDC, or National Institute of Health. At some point, the CDC was tweeting denunciations of it, somehow with the implication that this treatment was distracting from the main push of vaccine fanaticism. Okay, I think you get, I think I'll stop reading there, but it is shameful what the medical establishment has done. I have many relatives who are, medical doctors and nurses, and I really lost a lot of respect for the medical profession, except for the doctors who have been standing up at the risk of their own careers and even their medical license. But thank God, Dr. Zelenko and other doctors have been standing up. But the medical industry and our own government agencies are now controlled by Pfizer and other pharmaceutical companies. And it is scary and disgusting and shameful. And Dr. Fauci and the rest of you who are involved with this should be ashamed of what you've done. And I would like to see you prosecuted. For you are responsible for for deaths of hundreds of thousands of people in the United States whose lives could have been saved. Shameful and disgusting. Okay. Well, I'd like to share some good news. And so I want to switch our focus to the story of a man who had an encounter with we've been talking about death today, right? Let's see what happened to him.
And I went unconscious very quickly. And I don't know how long I was unconscious, probably not very long. When I awoke, and I was standing next to the bed in the room. The room was bright and well lit. And I felt better than I'd ever felt in my whole life. Of course, I was exceedingly happy, feeling so good, like somehow I was all better. And I tried to talk to my wife, and I got no response from her. I tried to talk to my roommate, Monsieur Florent, and got no response from him. And I felt that both of them were, for reasons that I couldn't understand, they were ignoring me. And it made me very angry. And then I noticed that in the bed that I had been in all day, there was a figure covered with a sheet up to his chin, turned away from me, and I bent over and looked at his face, and to my horror, it looked just like me. But I knew that it couldn't be me because I was standing there looking at this thing, and you can't be standing there looking at yourself unless there's a mirror, and there was no mirror. And I couldn't understand why there was somebody in my bed who looked so much like me. But I knew that the person in that bed was dead. And I knew that it couldn't be me, although it looked like me, because I was fine and I was standing there. And my state of mind was, I was angry, I was confused, I was happy that the pain was gone, and I couldn't figure out what in the world is going on in this room where nobody will talk to me. And that's when I heard people out in the hallway in English calling me by name and saying, "Harry, come with us, let's go. You've got to come with us now." And I said, "I'm sick. I need a doctor. I'm here to have surgery. I've been waiting all day to see a doctor." And they said, "We know all about you. Come with us now." So I assumed that they were hospital staff who were going to take me to a doctor. So I left the room and went into the hallway with this group of people. And that is chapter 1.
Okay, so we'll hear more from this gentleman, Howard Storm, in future King's Reports, but pretty amazing. And, you know, again, look, let us live for the truth, okay? This physical life is not the only existence that we have. And so it's, as Jesus taught us, as true Father teaches us, as the second King is reminding us, we have to stand for what is right, even if it's not popular. I thank God for people who are waking up and standing up. And you know, the global elites, they have an agenda, but there's somebody with a bigger agenda than they, and that is God. Okay, and I believe that this battle is not over. And I look forward to seeing all their stupid satanic plans exposed, and the people of the world have their eyes open, and people reawakened about what's really important in life. Okay. All right. I could say more, but I think you get my point. Okay. All right. I want to play this. There's a video from PragerU that I've been wanting to play for a few weeks, and so let me. I think we have time to play this. So.
Does a design require a designer? Keep that question in mind as we look at some new scientific discoveries about the origin of life in the universe. Since Charles Darwin published his theory of evolution in 1859, many scientists have denied that design requires a designer. Darwinists have long claimed that the mechanism of natural selection could generate the appearance or illusion of design without being directed or guided in any way. Recently, however, even staunch Darwinists have acknowledged that living things may have certain features that display evidence of actual, intelligent design, though their ideas about who designed life on Earth are, well, a bit out there. Some prominent scientists have proposed that space aliens designed and then transported life to Earth. Evolutionary biologist and noted atheist Richard Dawkins has even floated this idea, suggesting that extraterrestrials may be responsible for a possible signature of intelligence in life. Indeed, no less a scientific genius than Francis Crick, who helped discover DNA, also proposed the idea that ETs seeded life on Earth to set the evolutionary process in motion. If true, we have an intergalactic Johnny Appleseed to thank for starting the chain reaction that has taken us from inanimate matter to Shakespeare. So why have these scientists considered this seemingly far-fetched possibility? Because they have encountered a big mystery they can't explain. It turns out that even the simplest living cells aren't simple at all. And that discovery has made it extremely difficult to explain the origin of life. Recall from biology class that Crick and his partner James Watson discovered the structure of the DNA molecule. When they did, they also realized that the chemical subunits in DNA function like letters in a written language or digital symbols in a computer code. As Bill Gates has explained, DNA is like a computer program, but far, far more advanced than any software we've ever created, which kind of suggests a master programmer. Could such an intelligent designer have been an alien, as Crick and Dawkins have suggested? Perhaps, but there are problems with this explanation, big ones. First, the spaceship theory does not actually solve the problem of the ultimate origin of life. In fact, it dodges the whole question of where this super smart alien came from. How did he evolve? How did the first life and the genetic information necessary to produce it first arise on his planet? But there is something else the ET hypothesis does not explain. Modern physics has revealed evidence of design in the very fabric of the universe. Physicists have discovered that the fundamental physical parameters of our universe have been finely tuned against all odds to make our universe capable of hosting life. Even the slightest alterations in the values of key factors, such as the strength of gravity or electromagnetism, or the masses of elementary particles, would render life impossible. We live in a kind of Goldilocks universe, where the fundamental forces of physics have just the right balance and the properties of matter have just the right characteristics and configurations to make life possible. To illustrate this idea, the late Cambridge physicist Sir John Polkinghorne imagined a universe-creating machine with numerous dials, each representing some critical parameter. The various dials each have an almost infinite range of settings, yet all are set just right. Not surprisingly, Polkinghorne and many physicists have concluded that the improbable cosmic fine-tuning of our actual universe points to a cosmic fine-tuner. As legendary Cambridge astrophysicist Sir Fred Hoyle argued, a common sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super intellect has monkeyed with physics to make life possible. Could this super intellect have been an alien? Not a chance. Cosmic fine-tuning has been present from the beginning of the universe, and thus cannot be explained by any agent that arises after the beginning. Instead, fine-tuning is better explained by an intelligent agent outside the universe who could design its structure as a whole. To avoid this conclusion, some physicists have postulated another speculative hypothesis: the existence of a vast number of other parallel universes. This so-called multiverse idea portrays our universe as the outcome of a cosmic lottery in which some universe-generating mechanism spits out billions and billions of universes, so many that our universe, with its improbable combination of life-conducive factors, would eventually have to arise. Yet advocates of the multiverse overlook an obvious problem. All such proposals, whether based on something called inflationary cosmology or string theory, postulate universe-generating mechanisms that themselves require prior, unexplained fine-tuning, thus taking us back to the need for an ultimate or transcendent fine-tuner or designing intelligence. Many of us call this intelligence God. I'm Stephen Meyer, Discovery Institute Senior Fellow and author of Return of the God Hypothesis for Prager University.
Okay, there you have it. Look, evolution, the Darwinian theory of evolution has been probably the main cause of people to lose their faith in God. People, you know, we send our sons and daughters to college, and if they do go there with some kind of faith, it's quickly destroyed through the indoctrination. Of course, it's not just college. I mean, the indoctrination is now in high school, middle school, and elementary school, and it's basically they're teaching their religion, I would say, right? Their secular religion, and why? Look, as the second king has mentioned many times, unless you have a clear need to go to, to a 4-year college, there are other ways to first of all, to gain knowledge, and then also to gain a career, right? On the other hand, there are people on the college campuses who are pushing back. There are organizations that are pushing back and trying to educate people and persuade people. So there are different strategies, right? But government schools, they really have quite a bit of indoctrination, and they either need to be reformed or people should just leave. There are some good colleges and good schools, Hillsdale College and others, and there are some private schools and Christian schools. Although many private schools are also infected with sexual diversity propaganda and critical race theory and so on. Okay, I think we're running out of time here today. So look, Satan is working in a very powerful way, but God is also working too. And regardless, we need to do our part. You and I, we should do our part to stand for the truth and to share the truth as much as we can. Okay, I'd like to finish by sharing the praise music from Schoen Voigt. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you at Sunday service tomorrow with Second King and with Tim Elder on the King's Report Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching.
Government is on your shoulders. The hearts of kings are in your hands. The nations rage, the earth is groaning for you to move across this land, for you to move across this land. We're speaking the light over this nation. We're speaking truth where lies have been. We see the name that ends oppression. Come and move across this land. Jesus, move across this land. You are high and lifted up. You are seated far above. We crown you with honor, King Jesus. Every earthly kingdom fall. You before the Lord of all. We crown you with honor, King Jesus. We're speaking life over this nation. Hey! We're speaking truth where lies have reign. 'Cause you are the truth, God. We sing the praise that is separation. Come and move across this land. Jesus, move across this land. You are high and lifted up. You are seated far above. So we crown you with honor, King Jesus. Every earthly kingdom fall. You before the Lord of all. So we crown you with honor, King Jesus. And we crown you with honor, King Jesus. Free